Hi, I'm Thomas, and today I'm presenting Finding a Sustainable Career in a Chaotic Music Industry. So this presentation is broken into three sections. The first is finding a niche. So this will allow you to differentiate your music offering from other musicians so that you stand out from the crowd. The second section is financing your career. So you'll discover the specific audiences that will pay for your music offering. And the third section is lean methodology. So this is a strategy used by tech startups to ensure that your music offering meets the need of an ever-changing market. So about myself, on the music side, I'm completing a PhD in the psychology of music for sleep at UNSW. I've completed honours in interactive composition at the University of Melbourne at the Victorian College of the Arts, and I've had film scores presented in international film festivals. On the entrepreneurial side, I'm the founder of the generative music app Can't Sleep. I work at a digital marketing agency as a Google Ads certified specialist, and I've completed the very competitive creative startup program Collider Accelerator. So technology has created new challenges. At 0.7 cents per stream on Spotify, you need 142,000 streams a week per musician just to earn the dole. But technology also brings new opportunities. For example, you can now produce your own music. You can go independent instead of needing a label. There are many more platforms for your music to get discovered, and you can connect with your fans better than ever. So for this first exercise, what I'd like you to do is, as a 21st century musician, it's important to integrate technology into our music career, or we could be left behind. So I'd like you to please list 10 amazing advantages technologies offer your music career, just to get your mind running. So please pause the video and complete exercise 1. But the reality is that everyone can access these technologies. So how do you stand out? The answer is to go niche. So you're seeking a very specific music offering for a very specific audience. And by going niche, you have reduced competition because you're only competing with other musicians in your niche. You can also charge a premium price because individuals aren't comparing you based on price, they're comparing you based on your niche offering. It also means increased visibility. If listeners are looking for music in this specific niche, they'll find you. And finally, it offers clarity and direction. If you know your niche, you'll see opportunities within your niche that will allow you to propel your music career. So you don't want to try to boil the ocean. Everyone doesn't need to like your music. You need to find a very specific audience for your niche music offering. How do you find your niche? The first step is to identify a niche audience with a specific problem that you have a great solution for. And the second step is to identify something special or a unique advantage that you have. This is known as a unique selling point. So the first example of this is a wedding soloist. So the problem is that engaged customers are seeking live music for their wedding ceremony, but only have a small budget. The solution is that you are a singer-songwriter one-man band who can perform in a variety of musical styles appropriate for weddings. And being a one-man band, they're only paying for one musician to maintain within their budget. The unique selling point is that you write and perform a song for the wedding with lyrics written by the groom. How cool is that? The second example is a girl band. So the problem is that parents are concerned about the messages in the music their daughters listen to, and these female performers as role models. Your solution is that you are a girl band with lyrics that empower young women and raise awareness of gender inequality. And the unique selling point, what makes them different, is that your girl band has a unique conversational style of performance where you unpack your song lyric meaning during the show. The third example is my app, which is Can't Sleep app. The problem is that poor sleepers are seeking an easy solution to their insomnia that has no negative side effects. The solution is an app that plays music for sleep. The unique selling point, or how do I stand out from the crowd, is that the app is the only evidence-based music sleep app, as proven by the expert, myself. The fourth example is a YouTube arranger I recently discovered called Beyond the Guitar. The problem he identified is that guitarists are seeking exciting modern pieces to get into classical fingerpicking. His solution is that he plays guitar arrangements of video game themes and film scores on YouTube. But the unique selling point, or what makes him especially great, is that his Patreon followers have access to tabs for the pieces he performs, and those Patreons can choose the next piece he will arrange. For exercise 2, I want you to identify a problem your ideal audience has. So this is to find craving fans. Then I want you to list the solution you provide so you know how to meet their need. And then finally, your unique selling point. So how are you going to show them that you're different? Please pause the video to complete exercise 2. Do you have the right problem, solution, and unique selling points? One way to answer that is the ikigai, or the Japanese concept for a reason for being. On the right, we have 4 flower petals. The top one is what you love. So your ikigai involves doing what you love. On the right, you see what the world needs. So doing what the world needs. At the bottom, you see what you can be paid for. So doing what you can be paid for. And then on the left, what you are good at. So your ikigai also involves doing what you are good at. Now, where these 4 petals overlap, we see that you get your passion met, your mission met, your vocation met, and a successful profession met, all through your ikigai. So the first petal is doing what you love. And I'm sure that you all love performing, composing, arranging, and working with other musicians. That's why you're doing music. What you are good at? Well, if you're studying music professionally, you're clearly good at your craft. The third petal, what the world needs, everyone is consuming music. We hear music in social media, we hear people listening to music themselves, we see music in advertisements. The only challenging petal is what they are prepared to pay for. A study in the US found that a music alumni's annual income as a performer ranged between $10,000 and $20,000 USD, and that only approximately 1 in 10 individuals earned more than 60,000 USD. So what this means is that most of these music performers had 2 to 3 jobs just to have a healthy income, and that the majority of their income wasn't coming from music. Another example comes from Kevin Parker. So up until recently, all of Tame Impala's record sales outside of Australia had received $0. Someone high up spent that money before it got to me. I may never get that money, he said. Then BlackBerry and some tequila brand or something put my song in an ad. Then I bought a house and set up a studio. So we see that regular listeners might not pay for music. In the 2000s, we saw peak sales with compact discs, but that's heavily declined since piracy, and the streaming industry hasn't really increased music sales. As you can see on the right, it's only just starting to creep up a little bit. But the good news is that advertisers will pay for your music. So we see Telstra supporting flight facilities and IKEA supporting Confidence Man. That certain niche audiences will pay for your music. For example, the Australian Pink Floyd experience has done very well, and the Wiggles is one of Australia's most successful live performers. And large industries will. So Human Nature had a very healthy residency in Las Vegas, and Nigel Westlake was able to support his career by composing the music to the film Babe. The main takeaway though is that these are all Australian musicians who have found specific niches that will pay for their music. It's important to always be thinking of new ways to increase your revenue in your music career. So for exercise 3, I'd like you to make a list of 10 musicians who have found a niche audience or markets and has led them to a successful career. Please pause the video to complete exercise 3. The summary so far. So we've looked at solving problems. So the first step is the problem that your unique audience has, the special solution that you provide, and your unique selling point. So what makes you different to other individuals in your niche? On the other side, we see the ikigai. So we've looked at doing what you love, doing what you're good at, doing what the world needs, and doing what you can be paid for. So this next exercise is really to get you thinking about your ikigai and your problem solution. So the first thing is to identify what you love. So give 10 broad examples of general things that you love. The next step is to identify what you're good at. So list 10 examples of things you are good at. Then what the world needs. So 10 examples of things you think people would like. And then what you can be paid for. So list 10 examples of things you could be paid for. The final step for exercise 4 is to look at this through the lens of your ikigai. So how can these areas be combined in a music context? Please pause the video to complete exercise 4. Now that you have a couple of ikigais from exercise 4, I want you to define what problem you are solving in these examples, what is the solution you are presenting, and How will your solution be unique or your unique selling point? Please pause the video to complete exercise 5. The unfortunate reality is that whilst you might think you have your ikigai sorted, a study in the US found that the most common reason that businesses failed was that there was no market need. So we might think that people are willing to pay for our music, but that might not be the case. So what we need to do is we need to pivot or to shift to a new strategy. So if your plan isn't working because people aren't willing to pay for your music offering, it's probably time to pivot, change either your problem, your audience, your solution, or your unique selling point. This is 3 examples of music career trajectories. The first example is how not to build your music career. So this is illustrated through a car. We see someone has wanted to build a specific model of car and has built the first wheel, then built the base, then built the back, and then built the car. The problem is that this is aiming for the perfect career without even knowing if it's possible. So they had this intention to build this specific car or a specific music career, but they haven't tested to see if people will actually pay and support for that career. The second example is also how not to build your music career. So in this example, we see someone has built a scooter and then totally changed and built a bike, and then changed radically again and built a motorcycle, and then ended up building a car. So this is constantly changing your career trajectory with no clear path. The third example is how to build your music career. So we see someone has started with a ute and then seen that people want the ute to have a slightly bigger trailer, so they increase the size of the trailer. Then they realize that people don't want a ute and they want a hatchback, so they've changed the car to now a hatchback, and then they've modified the hatchback slightly to be more rounded. And this is what you want your music career to be like. It's an evolving career that pivots to better suit market opportunities. The main takeaway is that you don't wait for or build the perfect career. It's about how quickly you can test your musical ideas. So some examples of this minimum viable product or service, the least you can do to get your music idea out there might include 5 15-second demos, an unmastered bare bones recording that you can show people. Instead of performing a full orchestral performance, you might just use a MIDI mock-up to demonstrate your idea. Or you might do a live improvisation, showing people what you offer. If you're a lyric-focused band, you might just have a couple of pages of lyrics to show people what your content is. Or it could even be as simple as a band bio or concept art to describe your music offering to others. What is the fastest way to test if your target audience would be interested in your problem, solution, and USP or ikigai? So for exercise 6, I'd like you to list at least 5 ways to start testing. Please pause the video to complete exercise 6. One of the most successful strategies for finding stability in ever-changing times comes from startups, and that's called the lean methodology. So this is the fastest way to discover what your target audience wants. You don't want to spend months creating something that no one is willing to pay for. So on the left-hand side, we see what's called the build, measure, learn loop. So you might have an idea, then you would build that idea, which would create a product or service. Then you would measure what people think of your product and service. Then you have all this data, which you would interpret. And then you learn from that data to create more ideas. And this is a cycle that you would repeat until you have something that people really like. In the context of music, or the lean methodology for musicians, you might start with performing or composing or having a musical idea. Then you would present this to an audience to collect feedback. Then you would interpret and implement this feedback into your songwriting, your composing, or your ideas. And you would iterate this cycle until you have a music offering that your audience loves and is willing to pay for. So let's look at some types of feedback. So it could be the number of views or listens to your tracks online. It could be paid downloads. It could be the size of a live audience. You might be asking through surveys, reading comments, or just asking in person for feedback. The secret is that the faster the lean cycle, the faster the progress. So this means that you need to write and perform regularly. You need to always get feedback from your target audience. And you need to take action on that feedback. This way, you can quickly learn what your target audience likes and what they will pay for. So what are the best types of questions you can ask? Well, the answer is that all of them are related to whether they are willing to pay for your music. So the first question is, how likely are you to pay for this music offering? The second question you would ask your niche audience would be, how much would you be willing to pay for this music offering? The third question is very directly, will you pay now? And if they won't pay, then you ask, what would I need to change for you to be willing to pay now? Now, if someone you don't know pays for your music offering, you're heading towards the right career path. So let's dive a little bit further into where you can get feedback. So in person, you can ask questions. So these might be asking audience members, friends, family, colleagues, if they would be willing to pay for your music. You can also check in person with metrics. So this would include counting the number of paying audience members. For online, you might post surveys on Reddit, forums, or face groups to see if people would be willing to pay for your music. It could be online, so you might be counting the number of views, downloads, and purchases and view rate for your music to see if people are willing to pay for your music. You could ask someone in your industry who's a professional. So you'd ask them questions and contact an expert in your field and ask them if they'd be willing to pay for your music or if they think there's a market for it. The other strategy is you can, again, count how many industry professionals reply to your phone call or email as an indicator of interest in your music. So let's look at where you might find your niche audience using the previous examples. So for a wedding soloist, they might have a partnership with wedding venues or photographers to reach their niche audience. For the girl band, they might be on Facebook, conventions, going to female empowerment workshops, or podcasts to find their niche audience. For my app, Can't Sleep, I went on insomnia forums and ran paid advertisements between 2 and 3 a.m. when insomniacs would generally be struggling to fall asleep. And the final example for the YouTube arranger is that he might have gone on guitar tab websites and similar YouTube guitar channels to see if people would be willing to pay for his music offering. But the main takeaway is that you want to leverage others. So finding one person with 1,000 of your target audience is easier than finding 1,000 of your target audience. For exercise 7, I want you to put this into practice. So please list 10 sources where you could get feedback for your music offering and 10 industries or individuals who would have access to at least 50 of your target audience. Please pause the video to complete exercise 7. The other side of the coin is helping your audience to find you. So I might ask someone, tell me about your music. And they say, I don't know. I go, well, why would I listen to your music? And they might again say, I don't know. And I go, well, what bands do you sound like? And they say, Radiohead. I mean, this isn't very inspiring. It's not helping me to find out if I want to listen to this music. So the solution is the trigger, or what we might call an elevator pitch. So you'd start with your customer or target audience, the problem that you've identified that your customer has, and the solution that you provide. So to put this all together, you would say, I help X customer with Y, the problem, by doing Z, the solution. Now, if you maintain some ambiguity in your solution, you can encourage more questions, and that's when you can mention your unique selling point. Let's look at some examples of a trigger using the 4 previous music offerings. Before we get into that, we need to remember to treat the trigger like an elevator pitch. So that means we need to practice it, and practice it until we nail it every time. So for the wedding soloist, he might say, I play music at weddings, audience, for couples who have a small budget, problem, and want an intimate live performance, solution. And his USP is, and I write music from the groom's vows. The girl band, they might say, we are a girl band for parents, which is the audience, who don't like disempowering lyric content, which is the problem, which play female positive music, which is their solution. And we unpack important gender inequality issues, which is their unique selling point. For my app, Can't Sleep, I would say, Can't Sleep app helps stressed individuals, which is my audience, with insomnia, which is their problem, through music, which is the solution. And the app is backed by music psychology research I've conducted, which is my unique selling point. The final example is the YouTube arranger. And he might say, my videos are for guitarists, which is the audience, who want to learn fingerpicking but not classical, which is the problem, by arranging scores for guitar, which is his solution. And then his unique selling point is he gives the tabs away to Patreon subscribers. So now I'd like you to write out your trigger, and this will include your customer, your problem, your solution in one sentence, and then your unique selling point. Please pause the video to complete exercise 8. So where can you use your trigger? The answer is everywhere. So you can put it on your business cards, you can put it on your website, you can put it on your Spotify, you can put it on your band bio, you can put it on advertisements, on your Facebook page, and your email signature. The point is, you want this to be the first thing people see when they find out about your music offering. So I'd like you to list 5 examples of where you could use your trigger for where your target audience would be looking. So really think about what your target audience might do and where they might see your trigger. Please pause the video to complete exercise 9. To summarize, we've looked at 3 sections in this presentation. The first is finding a niche. So you'll be now able to differentiate your music offering from other musicians so that you stand out from the crowd. The second section is you looked at financing your career. So you discovered the specific audiences that will pay for your unique music offering. And then the third section was lean methodology. So you discovered a strategy used by tech startups to ensure your music offering meets the need of an ever-changing market. But the main thing is to just get out there. You don't want to do perfect. You can write what you think is the perfect album, but that doesn't mean people want to listen to it. Instead, find out what they want to listen to. So you want to be constantly testing. Invest as little time and start testing your customer, problem, solution, and unique selling point straight away. Honestly, you'll be surprised by who will and won't pay for your music offering. No, seriously, just get out there. The sooner you learn and pivot, the closer you are to a sustainable music career. Thank you for listening. I'm Thomas Dixon, and if you have any questions, please contact me at thecan'tsleepapp@gmail.com. Thank you for your time.